Let me introduce your host, Fino and Sasha, the legit king.
It's the start of the show, time to walk through the smoke. When I enter the ring, I jump over the ropes. I feel like Mysterio, I ain't no joke. Titles, I held them both, call me Chris Jericho. Time to cash in my money in the bank. Just like Sheamus when he beat Roman Reigns. Meet me in the cage, like Undertaker when he met Kane. I don't play games, I'm the Triple H. The crowd screaming, you rock like my name's Dwayne. The crowd screaming, you suck like your Kurt Angle. In the ring, I'm the boss just like Sasha Banks. So you'll get whipped like the intro from Sable. King of my stable, don't matter the label. Smackdown or Raw, you get put through a table. Pushed off a ladder or choked with a cable. Throw me a chair, I'ma give him a facial. It's the start of the show, time to walk through the smoke. When I enter the ring, I jump over the ropes.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the wrestling podcast known as Ring Champs. I am one of your hosts. It's your boy, Just Fino. And of course, I'm here with my co-host, the one and only Sasha, the legit king. Sasha! Say what's up to the people.
What's up, people?
How are you doing, Sasha?
I am doing okay. I'm happy to do this show because I guess, like we said a couple episodes ago, like sometimes you need an escape from the world, and as usual, wrestling is always there. So I'm happy. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I think I'm finally at 100%.
Oh, good.
I think I'm good. So it's like you said, wrestling has helped, bring me back. And just with all the great things going on in the wrestling world, I mean, I have no choice but to feel great, I mean, we got Survivor Series. We had a good pay-per-view. What was it? Crown Jewel had a good one. We got Survivor Series coming up. We got Full Gear coming up. Next week is Full Gear. Like, it's a lot of good wrestling. So I'm good. I can't not complain.
Well, that's good.
But I do have to give you I want to start this off with a great compliment.
Okay.
Something you said a while, something you've been wanting has finally happened. I guess the fortune teller, how you had the whole fortune teller hat on my head.
Yes.
And I gotta say, you deserve to have it now. Because after the events of SmackDown, specifically talking about the LWO situation, I mean, you were just on point.
Girl be knowing.
And I gotta give you major props for that. Because you've been wanting it for so long. I've been, holding back on it. Like, I had a feeling it may happen, but I was holding back. But you were just full blast. And it actually happened.
No, I can't say that I wanted. I mean, because it's Rey. If you don't know what we're talking about, Santos Escobar turned on Rey Mysterio. As I predicted, Carlito had something to do with it as well. But I mean, I didn't really want it. I mean, it's Rey. Everybody loves Rey. Even professional turncoat Kevin Owens was like, I've turned on a lot of people, but even I wouldn't turn on Rey Mysterio. So, I mean, it wasn't on my Christmas list or anything. But I hope that this is a start for something big for Santos and for, I mean, they're not really the LWO anymore, but because, I mean, they really haven't done anything. The LWOs, I mean, Santos has definitely got more exposure. I mean, Rey is Rey. Like, Rey's amazing. Like, what can't you say about Rey Mysterio? Zelina was already, everybody knew who Zelina Vega was. It's like Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wilde. They were just getting their asses beat. Like, So I want this to be Legado del Fantasma coming back. If Zelina's gonna stay with them, fine. If she's not, let her go and do her thing. But I think this is the future. I think this is the right direction. This is a good direction for the story, because I just wasn't feeling what they had. But on the other hand, I kind of understood why it had to be this way, because it's going to make the story, I think, a little better. But what do you think?
Now I gotta say, I enjoyed the whole segment too. Like, I think once you watch Crown Jewel and you saw the events, first off, we also gotta give a major congratulations to Logan Paul, the new United States champion.
And see, nothing happened. The world didn't blow up. I'm actually happy that he's United States champion. I think it's going to be great.
We both predicted it,
Yeah.
and you know, I'm definitely happy, obviously, that he is the winner. But you know, after that whole situation leading to the events of him winning, with Santos leaving the brass knucks in the ring, and then Logan, of course, using it to win. I had a feeling something was coming. I didn't think it would happen this soon, though.
Yeah.
After that, I thought it would, take some couple of weeks or something. Maybe even after Survivor Series, because after Survivor Series, it's kind of like that dead zone for WWE.
Yeah.
And you need something, especially I don't think they have a pay-per-view in December. So you need something to kind of have to drag along until we get to the Royal Rumble. So I thought maybe then, but to have it now, it's kind of interesting. I wonder what they'll do. Maybe do they have a match at Survivor Series? Or do they just continue breaking up? Does LWO actually as a whole turn on Rey Mysterio?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like, will it be slow burn? like, will they or won't they turn on him?
Because even the way Carlito acted was a little funny to me. Like, I don't know about you, but first of all, when him interrupting Ray was heelish automatically. Like, it just felt, I don't know, it just felt really, really bad guy-ish for him to interrupt Rey Mysterio.
I mean, even though he's not a nice guy. He's not a nice guy.
I don't know. I just didn't like it. It was fishy.
I think it was very much on point for Carlito. That's why I said, like, I knew he'd have something to do with it. Even if it was, like, in the most indirect way, just him bringing it up, just stirring the shit. It's like, that's a very Carlito thing to do. So it seems pretty on brand.
Could it be Carlito, like, trying to take over LWO?
I mean, I had that question too, but then where does that leave Santos? Because I would assume that Santos does not want to be under anybody. Like, I don't know why you'd go to that length unless you wanted to either go out and do your own thing, or you wanted LWO to be leader for yourself. So I don't know if you would do all that just to go back and be under somebody like Carlito.
Well, the thing is, I believe that Santos, like, he never wanted to attack Ray, but I think that he wanted to continue following Ray, unless there's someone else that he now wants to follow, and that could be Carlito. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, sometimes a bug gets in your ear and you start listening to that.
I don't know. I'm waiting for Santos in his suit to say be safe. That's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for the Legado del Fantasma. So let's see if we get that. Let's just hope that H has been cooking still. Continue to cook, my guy. That's what I want.
Hopefully that happens soon.
Yes.
I want to bounce back real quick to Crown Jewel, because there was another big event there. Another big moment, I should say. We saw the destruction of a legend. We saw the destruction of John Cena. And the way it was done, gotta say, it was beautiful. And I love John Cena. I've grown to love him over the years. And I appreciate everything He does. But that's one thing that I don't think he gets credit for is putting people over. And what he did for Solo Sikoa at Crown Jewel, I thought was truly amazing. What are your thoughts on that?
I must admit, I was surprised. I think we even talked about it. Like, I didn't see him losing because of the way he was talking in the promo that he did on SmackDown. But yeah, like John Cena, I know everybody was like, oh, he used to be Super Cena. It's like, nah, John Cena, he's clearly there to help. And he's clearly there because he loves wrestling. And now that the actor strike is over and the writer strike is over, it's like, yeah, I don't think we'll be seeing him much anymore. But I mean, God, man, like, look what he did. He showed up to every show. Like, he did his all. And you can tell, it's not really off topic, I guess, but I really watched John Cena the other day. Like, I really just looked at him, and you can tell that he's not the same John Cena, like physically. Like, it's been a long time,
Yeah,
it's been a really long time. And I think we forget that as much as we hold up the careers like Rock and Austin, like, they really didn't have as long a run as John Cena did, and even Taker. I mean, he had a long run, but I mean, he had a lot of time, in between, a lot of injuries, he maybe wrestled maybe a handful of matches a year. Gosh, like John, and now it's like John was full speed all those years, and now he's into acting and everything like that. Like, he's a busy man, and for him to come back and do this is a real testament to how amazing he is. And I know we'll talk about that a little later, but yeah, I was surprised. I did not see him losing. I thought it was going to be one of those, oh, we'll tease retirement, but then I'll win. And I wouldn't have been mad at it, like, because I didn't feel like he would go in there and like beat Solo in like 3 seconds. I felt like it would be a competitive match. It would really kind of give that shine, that rub to Solo, and then maybe John will pull it out at the end and look, okay, no problem. But man, I didn't see that coming. So kudos to John and for being a champ and taking all that, and good for Solo, because I think in all the craziness with the bloodline, and like we said, it's kind of been in the lurch lately because Roman hasn't been there as much. I think this was good, because I think when it starts picking back up now that Rumble's coming up and WrestleMania, I think this was a good opportunity for Solo. So when it does pick up, you remember, like, hey, he's a guy that like took John Cena out. So it was good.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge push for Solo. Maybe some of the focus can now go to him just for a little while. And I love on SmackDown that they had Solo Sikoa returns next week. Like, they're trying to put him out there as like he's a big deal. So I really appreciate that, and I thought it was great booking. Makes him look strong as hell. So you can't really ask for more than that. All right, so now let's go to another event that took place. It was kind of I wouldn't really call it an event. I guess the best word to say would be an all-out war that occurred. Let's see. So at the end of Monday Night Raw, we got to see the first. Well, actually, throughout Raw, we got to see the first like matches being set for upcoming pay-per-view. I don't know if you heard of it. It's kind of a big deal. It's one of the big 4 pay-per-views. It's called Survivor Series. You ever heard of that?
I think I might have.
Okay. Well, at Survivor Series, they have, now over the last year, and this is the second year, they've had this big match. It's kind of a 2-sided ring thing. It's completely crazy, but it's called WarGames, okay? And it looks like we got our first WarGames set, because at the end of Monday Night Raw, we had a whole brawl between Judgment Day and 4 of the ops. Okay, for the
Not
Judgment Day.
ops.
We got Cody Rhodes, Seth freaking Rollins, Sami Zayn, and Jay Uso, or main event Jay Uso. I'm sorry, I got to say his name correctly.
But yes, put some respect on his name. Main event, yes.
And it was a great brawl. Like, it was first off, we had a great match to end Monday Night Raw. Sami Zayn versus Seth freaking Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yes.
Great match. And then it just turned out into the war that I was just talking about. So first of all, we also want to give massive credit to Adam Pearce for the War Games. I thought he announced it pretty damn awesome. It was almost William Regal-esque. It was almost there. I like the fact he took off the glasses.
I feel like maybe he felt like he was under some pressure. Like, I feel like maybe he just kind of sat and thought about it all day. He's like, okay, how am I gonna do it? How am I gonna do it? Because that's a lot of pressure. Like, I would feel like, oh shit, I gotta say
really is.
Like, but I mean, he definitely he put all his effort into that. So you go, Adam Pearce. I wouldn't call it like William Regal-esque, but I'm still proud of him.
I thought it was great. I thought it was pretty damn great. It was on that. I ain't gonna lie though. Part of me thought William Regal would come out.
Yes, me too. Me too.
But
like, if you're gonna trot him out once a year, that's it. Do it.
Yeah, I don't know when the year is up, because I think he can't be on TV for a year if I remember right. So it would have been kind of cool if just all of a sudden William came out, but it's all good. I'll take it. Like I said, I thought Adam Pearce did a great job. But what are your thoughts? Judgment Day versus the 4 Ops members, Cody Rhodes, Steph, Sammy, Jay. What do you think about that match?
First of all, I think it's hilarious that you're calling them Ops. Second of all, to kind of round out our last point, I want to see how Nick Aldis is going to say it, because clearly SmackDown is going to have the women's War Games, but we'll get to that in a minute. I think it's the logical thing. I think if you're going to do War Games, I appreciate that at least it makes sense. At least it's not like, I feel like with Survivor Series in the last 2 years, they would always try to like throw things together to kind of fit into the 5-on-5, and sometimes it would make sense and sometimes it wouldn't. But this War Game, and I think they've done a pretty good job as far as War Games. Like, this makes sense. Everybody has beef with everybody. Like, it's a logical thing. I mean, it's War Games. It's gonna be long. It's gonna be crazy. I'm anxious to see how JD McDonough's going to do in that match. Like, I know out of everybody, you'd be like, why him? But it's like, he's kind of the lowest on the totem pole. Not, skill-wise or anything, but as far as, like, notoriety. So I wonder, like, how much of a chance he'll get to shine in that. Because he's kind of just been steady auditioning for Judgment Day. And it's weird that he's not in Judgment Day, but he is kind of in Judgment Day. So it's kind of like you're marching out to war and you might not even like be all in. So I mean,
right.
To me, logically, if I was JD, I'd be like, can I got some paperwork or something? Like, am I in? Like, can I get some eyeliner or some shit? Like, because if I'm gonna go do that, like, let me know something, right? So I think it'll be fun. I know I mentioned off air before that I had a question, and I guess this is the perfect time for the question. I know that WWE is like contractually obligated to have a certain amount of, pay-per-view or PLEs in Saudi, but do you really feel like I don't know. I just felt like Crown Jewel was kind of unnecessary. Like, that placement of it, I feel like it kind of threw Survivor Series off, because now they just came off the Crown Jewel and now they have 2 weeks to throw together the rest of the card. And I feel like I was looking forward more so to Survivor Series than Crown Jewel. I mean, I get we had like John and Solo and you had LA Knight and Roman, but I just wonder, like, do we really need Crown Jewel, or could we just have skipped it if possible and really kind of gave some of those matches to Survivor Series because we don't even know if Roman. I don't think he's going to be on Survivor Series this year.
Right. No, so it was there for a reason. It was there in that place, like at that time, for a reason. So I don't know if when you were watching Crown Jewel, if you heard them talk about Rehad season.
Oh, okay.
Rehad season, I'm not sure exactly what that is. The meaning behind it, but it is like a big thing over there, and that's what they celebrate by having a bunch of events and stuff. So I think I mentioned it on the last episode, but the week before they kicked off Rehad season with a big boxing match. It was the whole the world heavyweight champion. Wow, my mind just went blank. But it was a big boxing match. I forgot the competitors. And it was kind of like a dream match. Nagano, I can't think of the guy's name. He was in WWE too. He did like a guest appearance in Saudi Arabia at one point.
Yeah, you got me.
God, my mind just went blank on him. But anyway, he
respectfully, whatever your name is, man. Respectfully.
Yeah, yes. I can't believe my mind just went blank on this. But anyway, that led off the big event. They had so many celebrities there. I mean, Vince McMahon was there. Undertaker was at the boxing match. Eminem, like all these guys were just all there. It was treated like a Super Bowl in a way. And then the next week in the same arena, they had Crown Jewel.
So let's take Rehad season off the table. If that wasn't a factor, do you think
it was a bad spot?
Okay, yeah, because I just felt unnecessary. It was like, okay.
Yeah, if anything, it should have been in December when there isn't a pay-per-view.
Okay.
That could have been kind of like your lead into Rumble or something like that.
Maybe not December, because then it's like that travel during December is very crazy. I don't know. It just maybe what was the pay-per-view? Sorry, what was the PLE before Crown Jewel?
Wasn't that Fastlane?
Yeah, maybe they could have just moved it back, like instead of taking Fastlane now. Because I mean, really, it just maybe I was just looking forward to Survivor Series so much this year, and now it just kind of feels like I think it's still going to be good. It just kind of feels like you got to hurry up and throw all this together because of the awkward placement with Crown Jewel. But it's not so much a complaint; it's just like an observation. I was just wondering, like, did you feel that way too?
No, I see your point with that. I get that, and I do kind of agree with it. I think the thing about it, what helps the situation, is that most of the matches that are happening at WarGames or at Survivor Series, I'm sorry, it's based on feuds that have lasted so long. They're not really like put together matches. For the most part, I mean, I guess besides the one with the Miz and Gunther, but every single one has been built on from months past. So it kind of helps that situation. It's not really being thrown together in a sense because we've been building to it. I guess that helps the situation. That's why it doesn't really hurt it, but I do understand your point.
Right, and I understand your point too. I think that is a good point. I think that's the beauty in the way the shows has been booked. It's like you have this long-term storytelling to where you don't have to try to throw stuff at the wall at the last minute. So yeah, I get it. That's probably a better point, but okay. Yeah, so I mean, as far as the WarGames, I think it's gonna be long. I think it's gonna be a crazy. Like I say, I want to see how JD McDonough does. I think it's cool that Cody's in WarGames for the obvious connection. And gosh, I don't know who wins though, because it's like Judgment Day is winning everything. But in your words, you don't want the ops to lose either. So I don't know.
Well, the thing is, they're not done. There is more pieces to the puzzle. So there's one big piece to the puzzle that we haven't mentioned, but he's actually a part of the storyline. He has been for the last 2 months, and that's a man named Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
I believe Drew McIntyre is going to be added to this match, and I think he's going to join Judgment Day.
Man, him and Damian Priest on the same team. That's a lot of men for me. Wow, that's just cool for me. That'd be crazy though. Wow.
So if he joins that match, then that means it's 5-on-4. That means they're gonna need another member.
I feel like you've been cooking some suggestions, so go ahead and hit me with one. Who do you think is gonna be the other person, the other op, as you say?
This is the thing. The other op is the crazy thing is this person is an op, but he hasn't feuded with any of them yet because he's been gone for so long.
Okay.
I think we see the return. I think Cody calls a friend.
Ooh,
and that friend
turns so much better when it happens. Ooh.
That friend is your boy. I think it's gonna be Randy.
Ooh, Randall Keith Orton, yes, sir. I like the way you think, my friend.
But this is the crazy part. I think Randy turns on Cody in the match.
Also on par with what a Randy would do.
Yep. I think Randy comes back heel. He joins the team, and then right before they're about to win, he RKO's Cody.
But
and Judgment Day wins.
Okay, so we don't have so we don't have a PLE in December. So do we really want him to turn at Survivor Series?
Yep.
Or do we just want to do that slow? Because I mean, it's Randy Orton, you know he's gonna do it. But I feel like sometimes the fun part is just seeing when he's gonna do it. Like
no, so this is where I would book it. Okay. I book it. He's the last. First of all, we don't even know it's him.
Right.
They don't even. So it's similar to the NXT WarGames they did a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. Oh, when Kevin
Owens. So that's what they do. So Randy gets his big pop. He comes out last. Okay. Everyone loving. Everyone's yes. He doesn't have to do much moves. Because he's going to come in, he's going to just beat up everybody. You know, quick moves here, quick moves there, do the whole throw you against the rope, do the pickup slam. You know, the normal Randy stuff.
I wonder if it's okay for him to do RKOs anymore. This back.
No, I think it is. I don't think he'll come back if he couldn't do it. But you have to limit it.
Okay.
So I don't think he does any RKOs until he RKOs Cody. In fact, I am gonna say if the over and under is under one RK is under it's under 1.5 RKOs in that match.
Okay. Like this show's brought to you by Sports King.
Exactly. But that's how I would do it. He beats up everybody. He's gonna set up for the RKO on let's say Damien. Let's just say it's Damien.
Let's not say that. Let's say somebody else.
Okay, it's JD. Let's say it's JD.
Okay.
He sets up, he does his whole punch the ground thing. He gets up to do the RKO, but instead he hits Cody with it, and then JD gets the pin. JD becomes a full member of the Judgment Day because he won it for the match for the team, and Randy turns on Cody. So it's like a double win-win for everything. Cody has his next feud. JD is officially a part of Judgment Day. The Judgment Day wins, and so on and so on.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. Like I said, it would keep Cody busy. I'm still trying to figure out how they're gonna get to Cody and Roman, but that's all part of the fun. But yeah, I think it's good.
There's only one way. You're not gonna like
we
it.
thought it was going to be the other way, but and we're not going to bring up what I think you're talking about because again, we don't. This is the positive side of wrestling, and no. Can we also pipe in what was that clip from like Talladega Nights? Like, don't you put that on me, Ricky Bobby, or something like that. That's what we need to plug in right now because we're not even going to talk about that.
Okay, I'm just saying there really is only one way because they can't have him win the Rumble.
No, I mean he was just Shawn Michaels gave him a job for one night as NXT general manager. Clearly, Cody has pull, so maybe he can pull another way, but it can't be. No, it can't be that other way. So let's move on because it's not.
Well, the only other way is a loser leaves Raw type thing or something. I don't know. It's just
okay. That's much better. Let's do that. Awesome.
I don't know.
We don't have a lot of those, so that's not overdone. That's good.
We'll see. We'll get to that point when it gets there. We're a long way. Well, let's continue on with speaking of War Games because you mentioned it before. The women's looks like SmackDown is going to have the women's War Games event.
As they should.
And we saw another turn this week. Well, first of all, we saw the return of Kairi Sane at Crown Jewel.
She looks kind of scary in the most respectful way.
She looks amazing.
I
love the whole look. Absolutely love it.
Oh.
So this week on SmackDown, they had a 6-woman tag team match. They had Kairi Sane, Bayley, and Io versus Charlotte, Bianca, and Asuka. That's right, Asuka. And at the end of the match, well, towards the end of the match, I guess you could say, then the match didn't really officially end. Asuka turned on Bianca and spit in her face and joined Judgment Day. Whether it's officially Judgment Day, not Judgment Day. I'm sorry. It's Judgment Day. She officially. I did the Samantha Irvin.
Yeah, see, it's easy. They're everywhere. See.
She joined Damage Control. Whether she's officially Damage Control or whether they're still Damage Control, I don't know. But I do like that whole dynamic of we're not sure what they are. Definitely with the whole Bayley thing. I love that they brought up the whole Bayley Kyrie thing. That was awesome. And they showed it and everything. I love Kyrie's facial expressions during that. I even like the fact that she said, "I forgive you" in the broken English. Like it was just, the whole segment was pretty good and done well. Bayley looking like $1 million, by the way. But just I love the whole dynamic. So it looks like we're gonna get those 4 women. I wish it was the 5 with Dakota Kai, but I don't think Dakota Kai is ready. With her injury coming back. But then it's those 4. Kairi, Asuka, Io, and Bayley versus Bianca, Charlotte, and it looks like Shotzi since she came out, which is a good spot for her. So it looks like we may just get a 4v4, but who's going to be that 4th member? Sasha, I need to know. What do you think?
I mean, again, I think this is why I'm not the Booker man, but I mean, logically, I mean, there's 2 names, and I'm only gonna say this one name because I feel like that's something that you'd want. It's not gonna happen, I don't think, but I mean, I don't think she's coming back, at least not anytime soon. But this would have been a nice re-emergence for the former Sasha Banks, but I don't see that happening. So, do you have Jade on this? Do we put Jade there? Because I can't think of anybody else logically on SmackDown, the women's division, where it would make sense for them to be involved.
So do you want to know the rumored answer to that question? And then I'll tell you who I think is going to be.
Okay.
So the rumor that I read online is that it's being reported that it's going to be Becky.
Becky?
Yes, which I don't get.
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay.
I don't understand that. in a way, I kind of understand it just for the fact that, it's Becky trying to get her on the card. This is Survivor Series. But it just kind of doesn't make sense for her to be in the SmackDown match.
Yeah, and they've done a good job of not just doing random things. So that does seem kind of random, but okay.
Now, I'll be honest with you. I didn't think about Sasha.
I thought you did.
No, I didn't. It would be great. And it probably would be the biggest surprise of the night. Even if CM Punk showed up. It would still be bigger than that, in my opinion. Especially the whole dynamic, because that's actually a cool thinking, is you have Kyrie coming back. So it would be cool if Sasha came back. So that's just another way to fuck with Bayley. But no, to be honest, I thought of Jade. I actually discussed this with my boy, because I was like, what a way for you to debut Jade if she's the fourth person. She comes out, she absolutely destroys everybody.
That's a good scenario, because she doesn't, it's not a one-on-one match. So it's not like it's all, I mean, all eyes are going to be on her, but it's not going to be solely her in the match. So it's just one person. So that, logically, that might be it.
And then, like, not only does she destroy everybody, but then, in a way, she shows up the other people in her team. And then she could be bragging, like, you guys won because of me. So kind of now you give her, and she already has that ego, that she's the baddest bitch. So imagine the baddest bitch wins WarGames for her team, on a team that has Bianca Belair, that has Charlotte Flair.
Yeah.
It's kind of a win-win.
We both agreed that her first feud should be Charlotte and not Bianca. Like, her and Bianca is the money match. Like, she should go through Charlotte first, but endgame should be Bianca. So this would be good.
I think that's kind of the most logical answer. But then I'm just thinking, I'm like, if it's not Jade, then when are you going to debut her then? Because you can't debut her at Rumble, because I feel like she would have to win.
Right.
And then, are you going to wait till WrestleMania? I don't know if you can do that. Like, I feel like that's too long, especially since you've shown her so many times.
Right. So there had to be a reason why they kept showing her. And especially now that they've kind of backed off showing her a little bit.
Exactly. And especially with the whole time thing. Like, she started doing that, the time.
Time is ticking, yeah.
Yeah, so that, I mean, to me, unless that's like a tease for Punk, like, how they've been doing all these little teases again. I mean, did you know that the promo that Nakamura did apparently was the whole words to CM Punk's theme song?
I have to go back and watch that. I don't think I saw Nakamura's promo, but I will go back and watch it. Now that you say
this was the one he did 2 weeks ago, I want to say.
So he
apparently it was the words to CM Punk's theme.
Huh.
I don't know how true that is, but that's what I read. I actually need to go back myself and confirm that, but apparently it is. So it's like,
so I'm gonna go watch that promo, because I know the words to Cult's personality. So,
but see, that's the thing. I don't know if it was Cult or if it was the one before, like one of his old.
Oh, This Fire Burns.
Yeah, it could have been that one. I'm not sure which one, but I heard that. But anyway, if they do Jade as that person, I just feel like it's a win-win. If it's Becky, it doesn't make sense. I'm not gonna be mad at it, just for the fact that it is Becky. But it wouldn't really make sense storyline wise. I just feel like there's better ways to do it. I just also wish there was someone else on SmackDown that they could, but they don't really have any names. I guess the fact they're using Shotzi kind of proves that, right? No offense to Shotzi. All right. So, one more thing I wanted to mention real quick before we get on to the main topic of the show. And we kind of hinted at it. I think you actually mentioned his name, but of course, we're going to just go ahead and get right into it. The tribal chief, my tribal chief, your tribal chief, Roman Reigns, is still our world champion. But the sad thing is, he will not be at Survivor Series. So, Sasha, the question I have for you, is that the right move?
Yes. I will say yes. Because, again, you have about 2 weeks left, and there really isn't a logical opponent for him right now. And I think if you're going to keep that element that he's an attraction, I think that this is the way to go. And plus, we know any show he's going to be on, he's going to be the main event. I don't think we need him for this because we have 2 WarGames matches. And I think this is the time to let the WarGames match be the star. Like, let it be the shine. I think anything else would just kind of be unnecessary, you know? So I think it's a good thing. Let the WarGames match. I feel like the men's gonna main event. They might surprise me, but I'm going in there thinking it's gonna be the men. No, I don't think he needs to be there. I think you start coming up with stuff for Rumble season. You just kind of let this pass through. Like we said, it's kind of dead after Survivor Series anyway. So no, I think they made the right choice. What say you?
Sadly, you're right.
I mean, he's still your tribal chief, so don't worry.
I know, but the only con to it is just the fact that your biggest star is not one of your big 4 events. Like, this was Fastlane, this was Unforgiven or something like that. I can truly understand. But it is Survivor Series. Like, this is supposed to be... That's like having Roman not SummerSlam or Royal Rumble. Like, it's you know, like, I understand Survivor Series may not be considered... It's the lower of the 4, but it's still the big 4.
But I think it's also a testament to how strong the company is as a whole. Like, I don't feel like we're missing... I mean, that's no disrespect to Roman, but it's like, I'm fine with him not being there. I don't think we're going to miss anything. I think WarGames is going to be good. They still have a lot of people there. So I think it would matter if the roster wasn't as strong and he wasn't there. Like, I think if this was a couple years ago, then yeah, it would have been definitely like, okay, you need him to be there. But I think the show can do fine. I think they could stand on its own without him. And yeah, so I think it'll be all right.
Interesting. That's interesting. So I guess this leads perfectly into our main topic of the day. And the reason why it's perfect for it is because it was a comment. So let me rewind a little bit. So I was bored at home a couple of days ago.
Okay.
And I was on YouTube and I started just... I don't know why, but I just started like watching like old interviews. And then after, you know, on YouTube that after a video ends, it'll just automatically play something else. And it automatically played on a recent interview that was done. It was, I'm sure you heard of it, the After the Bell podcast with Corey Graves and Kevin Patrick.
Yes.
And they just recently had their 200th episode. And on this 200th episode, they had John Cena as the guest. And I thought, yeah, okay. Well, I guess I'll let this play. I'll let it go. I haven't really heard from John Cena besides him being on TV. So let's see how this goes. And one of the things they talked about, well, first of all, I want to say how awesome John Cena is to interview. Like, it was a great job. He gives great answers. Obviously, he's very entertaining and stuff like that. So I want to give them props for that episode. It was really good. But anyway, one of the topics that they discussed on this podcast was the whole conversation of the GOATs, because as you know, Michael Cole has been giving John Cena the moniker the greatest of all time. Every time he comes out, they mention greatest of all time, the GOATs, and all this stuff. And what I found interesting is how John Cena said that he doesn't consider himself the GOAT. He actually considers Roman Reigns the GOAT. I'm gonna leave that for later on.
Okay.
But the fact that, you know, he mentioned another superstar, it had me thinking, okay, in wrestling, there's different ways to interpret the GOAT, because there's just so many ways, different areas that you could point to decide what is the GOAT, who is the GOAT. It's not like in basketball, where basketball, it's Michael Jordan and then everybody else. You know, it's so many factors that can contribute to someone being the GOAT. I want to just discuss with you, what do you reconsider the factors in being the GOAT of professional wrestling, or just, and mostly strictly WWE, because obviously we mostly speak WWE, but what factors, what leads to, what does the person need to be? You know, we can even give our list of GOATs or people in consideration of our GOAT. But I just wanted to discuss that. And I brought this up to you. You seem to love the idea. So, Sasha, I want to hear from you. Like, what contributes to you considering someone for GOAT status?
It's a good question. Gosh, there's so many, I think, qualities. First of all, I'll be honest, I did love the topic, but I feel like, man, this generation, man, we just gotta say who the GOATs are. Like, we need to know who the GOATs are. It's crazy. I mean, there's a couple of things. I think, so I would say, I think people would instantly think, well, if it's wrestling, they gotta have good in-ring ability. I think you have to ask yourself, you know, how important is in-ring ability? I mean, obviously they have to know the basics of wrestling, but I feel like this is such a complicated thing to answer, because then you have like the GOAT as far as technical, because you might have somebody that's a really, really good wrestler, but they might not be the most charismatic person. Or you might have the most charismatic person, but they're not the most like gifted technician. And you have to look at, like, is being on top long term important? But then it's like, you look at people like Stone Cold and The Rock. Well, mostly Stone Cold, like his run wasn't really that long if you think about it, you know? You know, just the connection with the crowd. You know, you could arguably say like somebody like an Eddie Guerrero, which to me, that's my personal GOAT. I feel like Eddie had everything. I felt like he could go in the ring, he could talk, he had that connection, he could do heel or face. But again, he, as far as like a long-term main eventer, his run wasn't that long, unfortunately. Like, he wasn't seen as that main eventer that he ultimately became known as. And I think maybe a couple years longer, had he not unfortunately left us so soon, maybe that could have really thrown him like into like even more talks of him being the GOAT. I mean, like I said, I think he's already the GOAT, but I can kind of see why John Cena would say that with Roman. I mean, whether people want to acknowledge it or not, I mean, he's pretty much been almost a main eventer since he walked in. I mean, the Shield was a big deal, and then him leaving the Shield, being the, you know, in the main event, whether people liked it or not, like, he's been consistently main event for years. And even though all those years wasn't like that, he's been there. So it's just the last couple of years has been, I think, the best work he's ever done. And then even in that, like, his run has brought people up as well. Like we say so many times on the show, nobody saw main event Jey Uso coming. And now he's a standalone character. Even Jimmy now, as goofy as he is, Mr. No Yeets, I mean, they might have got something there. Solo just beat John Cena himself. So it's such a complicated question to answer. You know, it's tough. And I think as many times you try to nail something down, I feel like sometimes the goalpost moves. And I don't think this will ever have a definitive answer, because some people will say like, oh, it was Ric Flair, or it was Hulk Hogan, or it was Austin, or it was Rock, it was Bray, it was, you know, I don't know. It's a hard question, but I definitely think, like, if you're gonna be in the discussion of being the GOAT, you have to have at least in-ring ability. Not saying the best, but in-ring ability. You have to be able to form a connection with the crowd, even if your connection isn't really you're the best talker, but if there's something about you that they can connect with. Rey Mysterio is not the best talker, but they connected with him, you know. Even I know that for obvious reasons, people do not put him in the GOAT category anymore. Chris Benoit, like, he was not a strong talker, but he was a machine in the ring, and people respected his in-ring ability. So again, that connection, I don't necessarily think longevity. I mean, yeah, you gotta have at least been there, you know, long enough to take a dance in the main event. You can't just pop in for a year and leave. I don't think ratings is a thing anymore. I mean, it's not 20, 25 years ago, but putting eyes on the product, I mean, Roman he's definitely a needle mover. So is John. And I mean, I guess you can count merch sales. I don't know. In that case, like, Rhea Ripley might be a GOAT because she's up there too. But yeah, I think those are important. You know, you have to have in-ring ability, connection with the crowd. You gotta have some longevity about you. You gotta have that uniqueness, because I think everybody who's in the GOAT conversation, nobody is the same. There's not really like a carbon copy. The Rock is not like Stone Cold. Roman Reigns is not like Bret Hart. You know, I think that's definitely important as well. So yeah, what do you think? What do you think is necessary to be in the GOAT? Because there's a lot of great wrestlers. There's a lot of phenomenal talent, but to be in that upper echelon, I don't watch basketball, but I feel like any sports podcast or any like sports show, especially when football season is over and, you know, they don't have really nothing much to talk about. Like, it's kind of like that lull. There's nothing really going on. They always bring up like the GOAT conversation in basketball. So there's a lot of great NBA players, but you know, there's that upper crest that they always talk about. And they're always debating if it's Bron or Michael Jordan is the best. And I'm so tired of hearing that, but I think it's the same thing with wrestling. You have a lot of great talent. There's that upper crest. Huh?
No, I agree. So I think that one thing about wrestling when it comes to the GOAT conversation is that at the end of the day, it's more, you know, you said all the factors. You said, you know, the crowd response. You said in-ring ability. You said mic skills, gimmick, longevity. There's just so many factors. But at the end of the day, I think that one thing about wrestling, that it really comes down to preference. Because, you know, I guess the perfect example is like this. AEW, for example, is considered an alternative to WWE. Why? It's because AEW focuses more on the wrestling. And a lot of people think that that's better than WWE because they prefer just watching wrestling. They don't really focus on storylines, even though they have storylines, whereas WWE's got the polar opposite. It's all about preference. And I think that's similar to the conversation of GOAT, is because some people consider, the sport is called wrestling. So one person may consider in-ring ability way more higher than they do someone on the mic, or vice versa. It's a tough conversation to have, but I think that we're all in agreement that they have to at least hit a certain mark in each of those areas. At least I would hope we would be in agreement with that. I think me and you are, but I would hope that the majority of people who have these conversations think that way too. So, like, for example, let's think of The Rock, because right now he's on my TV screen right now anyway. The Rock, I believe The Rock was a great in-ring worker. Obviously, his mic skills, that's untouchable. His gimmick, obviously untouchable. Connection to the crowd, I mean, he is the people's champion for a reason. He hits every single marker that you would want into, whether you want to be a seller, a merch seller. I mean, The Rock is still selling merchandise. I think The Rock is still in the top 10. So is Austin, who also hits all those markers. I think those are people that qualify, in my mind, for those GOAT conversations. I think outside factors can also, add someone to the conversation. You think of a man like Triple H, who gimmick-wise was in there. My skills, obviously. In-ring ability, obviously. But one may think of, let's see what Triple H is doing outside of the ring. As being a force behind the office and being a leader and now running the WWE. Does that help contribute? Right. Ric Flair, for example, you mentioned him. Does his outside influences, because let's think about it, pretty much all of Ric Flair's career, major and notable achievements did not happen in the WWE. One of them did, the 1992 Royal Rumble, which is considered by many the greatest Royal Rumble, where he won the WWE Championship. But everything else, I think the other 15 championships, if I'm correct, happened outside the WWE. But a lot of people could still consider him the GOAT of WWE.
Yeah, because then it's like you look at, and then I think another factor we could talk about is how they transcend the professional wrestling, because even though a lot of those championships happen outside of WWE, I mean, Ric Flair is in rap videos and athletes, they know Ric Flair, so it's
I mean, you can even go back to our what if about The Rock, where we talked about him leaving and how that affected or could have affected a lot of wrestlers today. We see guys like Seth Rollins in movies. Roman Reigns is going to be trying to be in movies. We obviously know John Cena is in movies and TV shows. Batista, I mean, that's a big deal. Does that help in his case of being a GOAT? I think another thing is, you mentioned with Roman Reigns about the Jey Usos, the Solos, putting people over. Does that help also give an edge to John Cena, who helped put over other guys? He put the United States Championship on the line each week and introduced someone new, a Sami Zayn, a Kevin Owens. He did help put over Roman when Roman needed that big significant win in the whole Bloodline storyline. That helped kind of signify, this ain't the old Roman. anymore. Like this is the Roman Reigns. Like this is the man. I mean, he did it twice. He put him over twice. So there's a lot of things, but I think that preference is a major part. I would like to have that conversation with you now about, we've mentioned some names, but what is truly, like, who are the true names that belong on the list of people that should be considered? I mean, we've mentioned Rock. I think that's a given. Austin's a given. Let's see. Roman is a given. Cena's a given. But who are some other people that we can put? And what's some surprising names maybe that we can put on this list?
Okay. Was HBK on that list?
So HBK is a very interesting person. And I do put him on the list, but he's one of the rare names that. So this is why I say that. Obviously, in-ring ability, he may be the greatest of all time.
All right.
But would anyone say his mic skills or even his? I don't know. Was HBK, was his gimmick that is what put him over, or was his wrestling ability? Like, did he have one of the greatest gimmicks of all time?
I mean, Heartbreak Kid. I mean,
and I'm not trying to go against him. I do put him in that conversation, but that's why it's one of those things where it's like, if we really were to sit here and try to like stack it, like put people and put an actual comparison and actually come down to who is the GOAT, which we're not doing, but if we were, I can see someone saying he doesn't deserve to be in it. I could understand it. It would be kind of blasphemous in a way, but in part of it, I could understand. What do you think?
I think he belongs on the list, and because if you just you lay out his whole career, right? He was in the Rockers, pretty major tag team, and then I will admit I feel like a lot of his antics in ring and out of ring, I feel like after he left the Rockers, that kind of took over, and I feel like sometimes it kind of overshadowed the work he was putting in. Because one of my favorite matches is it was him. Oh man, well, I did enjoy him and Taker in the first Hell in a Cell. That was pretty good. But yeah, I think it's like a tale of two parts with him. That first part of his career, I think it was a lot of the antics outside the ring. I think the Heartbreak Kid gimmick was really good. I really enjoyed that. But I think sometimes it overshadowed his in-ring work. Whereas when he came back later, it was more of people recognize, like, damn, he's good. They had the DX thing, but he was just Shawn Michaels. Like, I feel like he might have gotten the title of Showstopper before he went on the hiatus, but I really think he really lived up to it after he came back. And I don't think, if you were going to make that argument, I would have a hard time accepting it, because he also was in an era where it was like him and Brett, the smaller guys, who say that you're coming from essentially the status quo being the land of the giants, and now it's like, okay, we're going to a different direction. How instrumental he was in helping to pioneer that, and it still goes on today. Like, he's running NXT, so that could be the Triple H clause too. It's like he does stuff too, and now he's giving back, and he's behind the scenes running the show. So I absolutely think he belongs on that list.
Okay. What do you say about Triple H? Just Triple H?
Yes, because just on the sole fact, if you want to take away what he's doing now, I would argue that without Triple H, I think The Rock would have been great, but I don't know necessarily. I would say this: Stone Cold was probably his best known opponent, but I think Triple H was his best because The Rock, especially seeing as Stone Cold was so hot, number one, you know, him and Mr. McMahon going and everything. The Rock had a hard mountain to climb, and you don't become that much of an amazing babyface without an amazing heel, and Triple H was that heel. Like, when I first started watching wrestling, I came in, I think Stone Cold was hurt, so I really didn't get to watch Stone Cold as much. So my first big exposure to main event, Triple H and Rock, the hottest thing. Like, Triple H was just that dude. He was a heel. He was not a cool heel. He was an asshole, and he played that role to perfection. And where people wanted The Rock to beat him, like, they were so heavily invested. And I think that kind of heel work is rare. So I think why people make such a big deal, when like Dominic Mysterio gets the reaction that he gets. Like, when people get those kind of reactions, that's why it's such a big deal. Because there's not very many like heels anymore. Like, heels, they'll do cool stuff. Like, or they might start off with the best intentions, but still there's something cool about them and people kind of like that. Triple H was an asshole. Like, and they let him know that. So he absolutely belongs in that.
And I 100% agree with you. In fact, I have Triple H as the greatest heel of all time. And it's because of that feud with The Rock. You know, Stone Cold needed Vince. Rock needed Triple H.
Yep.
That's what put them over the top. And that was, to me, I understand that Stone Cold and Vince was the leading feud of the Attitude Era. But my favorite feud of not only the Attitude Era, but just of all time is Rock and Triple H. Yep. What that did for both men, you know, they started out pretty much together when going back to the Intercontinental days, you know, and the Intercontinental ladder match that they had and stuff like that. And it went on to the main event scene. And I think one of the dream matches that we just unfortunately never got was Rock and Triple H at Mania, like in the singles match, like that we almost got years ago. Like, it's just very unfortunate. Unfortunately, Triple H got hurt and, you know, got sick or whatever the case may be. You know, we won't get that. But yeah, I truly do believe Triple H should be in that conversation. Absolutely deserves it. His gimmick is not even a question. We talked about his heel run. Obviously, he was great on the mic because everyone hated him. I love the effect that he has. I think it was an excellent point that you brought up about Dom, because Dom has that effect, and I think he's learned that from Triple H. It doesn't surprise me at all. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Triple H had a part in that. And I think that if you go back to that when Dom came out and they introduced Nick Aldis as the GM, you know, when Triple H made that little smart remark about, oh, that is real. That's not piped in noise. Like, I think that was kind of like that's kind of Triple H kind of putting him over in a way. So he's continuously doing that. Obviously, the work that he's doing, or that he's done with NXT. I mean, we've had to talk about the Black and Gold brand on the previous episode. I mean, it's truly absolute tremendous what this man has done for the business and for other wrestlers. We mentioned Rock often, but we're forgetting guys like Mick Foley, Chris Jericho. You know,
I think Edge belongs on that list too.
I was gonna ask you about Edge. Tell me more about that, actually, because I was just about to bring him up as a name that Triple H kind of helped put over as well. But tell me about Edge.
Okay, so I think Edge is another good example, and probably one of the the case studies of how you can leave a tag team and kind of blaze your own journey, right? So obviously, you know, he didn't start in Edge and Christian. He started by himself, and then joining up with the Brood, and then they broke up, and he was just Edge and Christian. And then if you think, it was crazy. I think he mentioned in an interview, if you look at it, him and Christian didn't even tag that long. It was maybe about 2 or 3 years they were a tag team. Not long at all in the grand scheme of things. And I think it's safe to say, like, out of the two of them, like, the company was really behind Edge. You know, it just like they were just, he's gonna be the star of the, you know, he breaks out. And I remember when he broke out and was by himself and all the Edge heads, and he had like the Rob Zombie music, you know, I feel like Edge, even though it seemed like it was gonna be a slam dunk with him, I really feel like it wasn't as easy as it made out to be, right? So, good looking guy, cool music, girls love him, everything like that. But I think he had something to prove that he could get it done in the ring, right? So if you look back at his first official singles run, part of the SmackDown 6, he's in there with Benoit, Angle, Ray, Eddie, like clearly proven people in the ring, right? So he's in there, he's hanging, having amazing like banger matches, right? So he already has to kind of prove that I'm not just this pretty boy that they're looking at me as. Kind of what we see later on with Roman. Like, it looks easy, but you really got to put the wheels behind it, because I feel like he could have just rested on his laurels and tried to go with that. I don't think it would have worked for him, right? And then you have obviously the thing with Matt Hardy and Lita. And
before you get with that, I want to mention a quick story about Edge that actually plays into what you're about to say. So you mentioned his first go as a face. So right. there's an interesting story that happened that I'm not sure if you're aware of. There was I believe it was Cyber Sunday. Do you remember that pay-per-view where the fans got to actually vote?
Yeah, I remember.
So that was an actually legit thing. Like, they actually went by the results of what the fans picked. It was a match. It was John Cena versus Kurt Angle, and the fans got to vote on who the third person would be. It was Shawn Michaels, Edge, and I forgot who the last name person was. I believe they just threw someone in there. The company wanted Edge to win that vote, because they were actually going to have Edge win the match. And I'm sorry, it wasn't John Cena and Kurt Angle. I mixed that up. It was supposed to be Triple H was the champion. I mixed it up. Triple H was the champion, and they had Shawn Michaels, Edge, and somebody else to face Triple H for the title. The fans voted for Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels beat Edge by 2%. And that pissed Edge off. Not because he was mad at the fans, but he was mad at the fact that he was not getting over. And if he had been the person to win that vote, the company was actually going to have Edge give him the big moment and have Edge beat Triple H for the title at that pay-per-view. It was that pay-per-view where they voted for Shawn Michaels over Edge that Edge went to the bosses and said, look, I need to turn heel because I am not getting over as a face.
Right. That must have been after he came back from being hurt, because he was over as a face.
He was over to an extent.
Right. He was over, but then when he got hurt and came back, I think that's when it was like, and again, too, it could be the fact that, you know, there was a brand split and it was something new. And like I said, it was exciting. It was exciting to see him forge out on his own. But when he came back, you couldn't do the same thing. And I think that's what the point was, it's like having that chip on his shoulder really motivated him because, like you said, but he could have rested on that. He could have been like, okay, they didn't vote for me, whatever, and keep trucking along. It'll happen for me. But he was like, no, I'm going to go and do this. And I think that's another mark that separates the good from the great. Because for him to have that wherewithal and come to that conclusion, like, okay, I can go, but I'm not where I need to be. And then, ironically, this whole thing with his personal life coming in. I mean, I don't know if there's many people that could take that, what happened to them. Because, I mean, we've seen some scandals on wrestling before. But I gotta say, that man took chicken shit and made into chicken salad, because becoming the rated R superstar, I mean, you gotta admit, like, there was a time where he was carrying SmackDown, and to go on and have those matches with The Undertaker, have them with John Cena, have them that match with Mick Foley at WrestleMania 23, it's like he's a real example of just kicking that into the next level. Going, you could have had it this way. You had the wherewithal and the ability to say, okay, look, I need to be here. I've seen what all the greats do. I need to do this. You know, again, there's a lot of great talent in wrestling. But it's like, I think it takes a little something extra and special for you to say, I need to do X, Y, and Z to get here, and I'm going to do it. And go full force with it. Because I don't know a lot of people that would have taken having their personal life splashed around like that and just completely just dialed in, said, F everybody else, I'm going to use this. And I think in a weird way, that's what he needed. That and he's turning heel, because he was heel before everything happened. But it was kind of like I'm not getting what I want, a typical heel thing. And then to turn that into, okay, well, you guys think I'm a sleaze, I'm an asshole for doing this to my friend, this and that. I'm gonna really lean into it, you know? I think it takes a special person to do that. So I think he needs to be in that conversation.
Well, I think another person that deserves consideration is Kurt Angle.
Yes.
Kurt Angle, great wrestler. Obviously, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. I think that his gimmick was obviously, was awesome. Really connected with the crowd in both positive and negative ways.
Yes.
I mean, you think of the "You Suck" chant alone. I think, thanks to Edge, by the way. So, I think that's another person for sure. I mean, great on the mic. He was very underrated on the mic. He got better with time and just put on classic promos and classic matches, classic segments. If you go back all the ones he had with Stone Cold when Stone Cold was heel, I still think about the little guitar thing that he did with the song. Like I love that. He had his own milk truck.
That was my
so it's a lot. I gotta say, like, Kurt Angle for sure. Another name I want to throw is similar to Edge. He didn't go through the tag team route, but Chris Jericho, I think, definitely deserves some consideration. Now, I know if you look at the totality of his career, even if you go post WWE, I think that a lot of people will look at that as to why he should be considered the GOAT, and just in general. But if you just focus on his WWE run, I mean, was a 9-time Intercontinental Champion. Was in the main event scene, was the first undisputed champion. Obviously got over with the crowd. Great mic skills. In ring was really great in ring. I don't know if his popularity reach the status of like The Rock or Austin, obviously, or even the likes of Edge. I don't know if it reached that level. He might be a step under. But if one thing that I do love is the fact he changed so much, and I think he got every time he changed, he got that over. You can even argue that later in his career, he was probably more over with the crowd than he was in his beginning stages. I mean, let's go back to the fact that he got the word "it" over, or he got a clipboard with a list over. Like, that's I think that's nearly impossible to do for most people in the business. It's kind of crazy what he did with that. He just, first of all, I loved his whole like best in the world gimmick that he had. Obviously, I said the list of Jericho classic segments that he had when he won the WWE Championship, and the crowd went crazy, even though they took it back a week later. The whole what do you call that? The celebration, the festival, festival of friendship. What a classic segment! One of the greatest moments in WWE history. His debut, one of the greatest WWE moments in history. It's kind of crazy what he has done in his career. He definitely deserves, I think, consideration. He would be in my list for sure.
I agree. I think he definitely belongs on the list. I think he might be one of those that people might overlook, because I think looking back, I watched some of those Raws a couple years ago. He was very, very popular. Like, Chris Jericho was very, very popular. But I think the unfortunate thing for him was trying to break through in a time where it was like you had The Rock, you had Austin, so the babyface position was clearly filled, like 1 and 2, right? And then you try to be heel, and I'm talking about like his initial run, before he took the time off.
Right.
You have that initial, you heel now, but then even his first run as like a pure heel, and he was the undisputed champion, even that was kind of taking a back seat because he was still not quite rocking Stone Cold, and then even Triple H I feel like was ahead of him. So I think it was a timing thing. It was kind of like, okay, you have everything going for you. You're doing everything right. You have everything. It was a timing thing, I feel like, with him. But the fact that he was able to leave, come back, reinvent himself, the suit, and then being in, Jericho, and then his feud with HBK, being with Kevin Owens, it's like having kind of like Edge, that mindset of, okay, hey, I need to change. I need to roll with it. I can't just stick with the same gimmick forever. That too is a testament of a GOAT. You gotta know when to change with the times. And I guess that would be the argument for The Undertaker as well. He changed. So definitely Chris Jericho needs to be on that list, as well as The Undertaker.
I just want to say one last point about Jericho. You mentioned a great point about bad timing. You mentioned Triple H. Well, remember, Triple H got hurt, and he came back to one of the greatest, returns of all time as a face. And of course, the one time, he's over as a face, he faces Chris Jericho in the main event of WrestleMania that was overshadowed by Rock and Hogan. So he never really had the one thing he never had that go-to feud where Rock had Trips, Vince had Stone Cold had Vince. I mean, you could say it was Stephanie, but it's not like they were gonna have a blowout match or something like that. So,
and even to your point, like, even though he was overshadowed by Rock and Hogan, even in his own match, if you remember the build-up, it was mostly about Triple H and Stephanie. So, like, even his own match, he was number 3 anyway. So it's I think it was a bad timing thing for him, but this shouldn't necessarily. It doesn't negate from the fact that he definitely belongs on the list, because I mean, if you take all those factors away, it's hard to make an argument why Chris Jericho wouldn't be higher up on that list. If we just had to make a, if we had to go in order, I think bad timing is the only thing that kind of worked against him, but it doesn't take him out of the conversation.
Exactly. To save for time, we also want to just obviously some other names that we're not going to dive deep in them, but we got to mention guys like Randy Orton. You mentioned The Undertaker, of course. I don't even think we need to even say anything about that.
You already said Eddie.
Eddie, you could definitely throw in Eddie. That's one of my personal favorites. Ray, you could throw Ray in there. I guess even if you could, even argue a Punk. I mean, you can argue it, I guess. Got to give him some respect, I suppose, for his run here.
What about Brock?
Brock, for sure. I think Brock is definitely in the conversation. Cena, of course. We obviously mentioned Roman. Could we throw Seth Rollins in there? I mean, is it too soon? I'm not sure, but he definitely has the gimmick that's putting him up there.
I think we should wait a little bit. I think we need to look at the totality. I think he's in the midst of his moment right now, and then we could talk about it later. But I don't doubt that he will be in that conversation, but I'm not ready to give it to him now.
What is he missing from our all the factors that we're saying that will put someone in consideration? What do you think Seth is missing?
I don't think he's missing anything. I think he is also like Chris Jericho. I'm not saying he won't be on the list, but I think the only thing that will knock him down a little is that bad timing, because he has everything you need. He's champion right now, great in the ring, good looking guy, he can talk, connected with the crowd, but he's currently he's in the midst of probably the greatest run we've seen in years, probably ever, Roman Reigns. So if Roman was not there, you take him out of the equation, it's a little higher up, but I think it's a bad timing thing. I think it's he's getting overshadowed. I think he's doing a good job, and I know it's kind of crazy for me to say, because I'm always like, oh man, Shinsuke should have beat him, Drew would have beat him. This is not saying that I don't like Seth. It's just that sometimes I'm a little more interested in his opponent than him. Like, I kind of want to see. I like that they're doing something with Shinsuke and Drew, but he's definitely going to be on the list, no doubt. But I also think it's the Chris Jericho thing. Like, you're trying to come up and Roman is right there. And even when Roman is not there, he's still there. So it's like, damn it. Like, but he's definitely going to be on the list. It's just, I want to see what's like after Roman loses, whenever that day would be, whether it's next month or seemingly the obvious choice is 5 years from now, it looks like. But what that's going to do what that's going to do for Seth, But again, every PLE that they're both on, Seth is not closing. And I know sometimes you could say, well, it's 2023, closing the pay-per-view is not always but I mean, it kind of is. It kind of is. So
you think he needs to? I mean, I get you're saying that he's not missing anything, but he obviously is, for him to not be on that list for you. So you're saying, just so I can understand it clearly, you're saying he needs to wait for Roman to leave for him?
No, I'm not. I'm saying he can be on the list.
But something's holding you back. Like, I feel one of the things I'll say this. So I don't know if you know who Skip Bayless is.
Yes, I know.
Okay, so Skip has this thing where if you for someone to be in the Hall of Fame, right? If he has to think about it, you're not in the Hall of Fame. If I say Michael Jordan, automatically Hall of Fame. But if you say Bradley Beal or Carmelo Anthony, he'll if he has to say, you're not in the Hall of Fame. So using that logic for this, when I said is he in consideration, you said he's basically saying you have to think about it. He's not. So
I didn't say he's not. I said he's kind of like Chris Jericho in the sense that he'd be on the list, but
you said that, you said no. So
I did not say no. I said I have to sit there and the whole totality. Like I have to see because he's still in the midst of it. Like he's still relatively young.
You said not yet. I think.
Okay, yeah, he's not even technically at the prime of his career yet. Some wrestlers say when they hit like those 40s,
you don't think
that prime. So he's not even there yet.
You don't think so?
I just feel like okay. So you ask me right now, Seth Rollins. Okay, let's look at when Seth Rollins started and where he is now. Okay, he comes in with the Shield, right? Big deal, big deal, big deal. He turns on the Shield, right?
Right.
Now he's with the Authority.
Yes.
Okay. A lot of people around him, not to take away from him, but then it's help. Like
he was being covered. He was
because you had J&J, you had Triple H and Stephanie, and then Randy at the same time. You have Roman coming up, and Ambrose is there. Okay, fine. And then he leaves the Authority, and you have to admit, for a couple years, he was kind of just in between. He didn't have an identity, right?
100%. Okay. The greatest thing that ever happened to his career was the pandemic.
Right. So then, but think about it. That was 3 years ago. I understand that we also say that Roman started doing the best work of his career. But at the same time, Roman was still in main events during that time. Whether people liked it or not, he was still closing out the shows, main event and WrestleMania. Say what you want about how people felt about it. It was still happening. Seth, Monday Night Messiah. Okay, we got something working here. And then he starts dressing outlandishly. And now that's what we're in the midst of. So you have to admit, in all that time from 10 years, essentially, the last 3 years, Seth Rollins by himself has been cooking with gas. He finally got something, right?
Of course.
So that's why I'm saying if even by age he hasn't really hit that prime that most wrestlers themselves say that they hit, he's still a couple, because he's I think he's like 3 or 4 years older than me, and I'm 34, so he's not even 40 yet. So now it's like when I say wait for Roman, I'm not saying he'll be amazing when Roman leaves. I'm saying that once that pressure and that stuff is off of Roman, he finally loses the title, all that stuff wears off. I think then it's like, okay, Seth, it's like, all right, where's he gonna go? What's gonna happen with him? Because after a while, they're gonna stop. They're not gonna stop, but singing the song, wearing the outfits. Okay, where are we gonna go next?
Well,
are you going to be able to dial that up? Because honestly, I don't see Roman doing this for. I feel like Seth would wrestle longer than Roman, if that makes sense.
100%.
So, with that being said, when he steps down, or when he's obviously not even on the show that much anymore, is Seth going to be able to, now that you have this 3 years under your belt where you finally feel like you found yourself, are you going to be able to dial that up? Because right now it's Roman Reigns' time. Everybody has to admit that. It's Roman now. So when that time, when he kind of pushes off to the side a little bit, whether he goes away or not, is Seth going to be able to go to that next step? And I think that's what's missing from him. If you were going to argue whether or not he should be on the list, I think he should. one day, but I think how he handles that next step is what really is going to solidify him as the GOAT, if that makes sense. That's just how I see it. I don't think he's going to be Hall of Fame, whatever, but I think that next step is going to be the most important step for him.
It makes sense what you're saying, but I totally disagree.
Okay.
Because the way I look at it, it's like, let's go back to John Cena, Randy Orton. I see it like that. John Cena was clearly the face of the company. That's the Roman. That's what Roman is.
Okay.
And Seth would be the Randy Orton, where Randy Orton was still one of the greats of that roster, and considered one of their best people, and considered one of the greats of all time. But Randy wasn't main eventing every show unless he was with John Cena. But we still consider Randy Orton one of the GOATs.
I can see your point in that, but I would counter with the fact that there was hardly a time, I feel like, in Randy Orton's career where he was not clearly defined as that is who Randy Orton is. And he didn't really, I don't feel like he ever really had, maybe from the very beginning, maybe when he first started, he didn't have a firm grasp of who he was. But I would argue that once he found that at a relatively young age, it was no question that that's who Randy Orton is. And he really, outside of little bits and pieces changing here, he found his groove and he went for it. Because I think part of what your argument is that he's been doing this for a long time. But Randy Orton has been Randy Orton for a very, very long time. This wasn't like he was in Evolution and you didn't know who he was after that. Even before, like, he was Evolution, Legend Killer. He was a crazed psychopath who had some kind of disorder. He was Legacy. He was in the Wyatt family. He was RK Bro. He was Rated RKO. He went through all of that, and he was still very much so Randy Orton. He already had that. It's just he's been able to maintain that for a long time. I think that's the testament to Randy. He found his niche. He's able to maintain that steady throughout. Seth really didn't find that groove until very recently, and it's now that he's put it all together, and now that it's like, okay, this is who I am, I'm gonna go for it. It's still very new. I agree with what you're saying, but I still think I want to see more out of Seth Rollins. I want to see him take that next step, because I feel like Roman, in the most, not saying he's holding him back, but I feel like with everything coming together the way it is, that is what's keeping him where he is. But I'm not saying that he's never going to be on the GOAT list. I think he will be. I just think whether or not, when you immediately say, who's the GOAT of this generation, I think what he does next is the difference between, Seth Rollins and so-and-so. And Seth Rollins. That's what I'm saying.
All right, I'm going to ask you two questions.
Okay.
After Roman, in this generation, who's the next man up? Like, who is the next guy? Who's in second place?
I feel like you gotta look at Cody. He's
of this generation?
I understand, because he's technically of like Randy and them's generation. Okay, fine. I thought you meant like right now. Like, I thought you meant like after Roman right now.
I mean, okay, I get what you mean by Cody. I guess I get it. But
I mean, okay, if you're talking about generation,
higher on the totem pole. You think Cody's higher on the totem pole than Seth? Entering the company, he already jumped Seth. Is what you're saying, in your opinion?
If we're talking about right now, yeah.
Let's say right now.
If we're talking about right now, I think he is, yeah.
I think that's wild.
I'm sorry.
And
Because I even think in a way, okay, and it's again, this is not everybody like jump on Seth, but I mean, when we're talking about WrestleMania main event, I mean, we're talking about WrestleMania period. We just had a discussion about how, it could be Cody and Roman, or it could be Cody and Randy. And I think a long time ago we were like, could it be Cody, Roman, and Jay? You know, have we talked about Seth yet?
Wait, repeat that.
Listen, when we talk about WrestleMania 40, right? The last few shows that we talked about.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
We were talking about, this match could happen. And, we were trying to see, like, what could be the main event. The choices that we talked about as, like, face on the poster for the show, we have talked about Cody and Roman. We've talked about, maybe not this one for face on the poster, but we've talked about possibly Cody and Randy. We've talked about Cody, Jay, and Roman. We have not even...
That's unfair.
Approached the subject.
That
okay, but again, I'm not saying
unfair, and you know
fair.
it.
No, it's not.
That is
not.
That is so
not.
unfair of you to say that.
Not.
Because first off, we've had
this
conversation
if it's unfair,
before.
were you checking for Seth in the main event of WrestleMania? Be honest.
We have, because we said that there was only a couple of names that even have the right to even defeat Roman. We've had this conversation before.
We have, and I said that I
Cody,
think you should run it back with Roman.
Jay,
I did say that, but I did not
Seth.
say at WrestleMania. I did not say that.
But the fact that he's in that conversation of someone that should beat Roman, he's on that list. The only reason Cody is on that main event, to main event WrestleMania, like you're talking about now, it's because of the storyline. It's the story.
Okay, but all right, but even now, they're not even interacting, and Cody's still been able to build and continue the way he is. Even Jay, he's been able to build and continue. Like I said, we were just talking about the main event of WrestleMania, and let me ask you this: talking about WrestleMania night 1 and 2, clearly Roman main events night 2. It could be against Cody, it could be against Jay, it could be anybody, right? WrestleMania night 1. Let's say, okay, hey, let's, Seth is the champion, this and that. But let me ask you this. Let's say Jade Cargill had left AEW way back when, maybe a year prior, or maybe 6 months before. She debuted, all right? And now it's like, okay, Jade Cargill is going to be on the show. All right? So now we have, it could be Jade. Okay, it could be Jade and Bianca or Jade and Charlotte.
That is so unfair what you're about to say.
Well,
that's unfair because it's not. That is unfair because obviously they're making her the future. So that's like they're making her into a superstar. One that Seth, they're trying to put her on the level that Seth and Becky and Roman and Charlotte.
All I'm saying all I'm saying, be honest. Be honest. And again, this is not slighting Seth Rollins. This is like you used to say, straight facts. If it
now
was
she's using my own words. Okay,
exact. Okay. All right. You brought me on here. You trained me well. Okay. Listen.
Wow.
Okay. You did, Cap. That was you.
You know what's crazy? This is something I would say.
Look at that.
You're being like the heel, and I'm trying to like talk sense because what you're saying is straight blasphemous. Like it's kind of crazy. And
you've been a little calm lately. I have to shake it up.
You keep saying you're not trying to be disrespectful.
I'm not.
But you are, and it's kind of crazy.
I am not being disrespectful.
Someone that knows the wrestling business as you do. Someone that knows that the dry part of Seth Rollins' career, yes, it was dry as hell. Okay, he won't get in no calls, no texts. But you know why? That was not his fault. That was creative.
It wasn't his fault. That's why I said he's It's not he's going to be left off the list. He's going to be on the list. It's just the fact that how quick are you going to put him on the list?
He is having. I would say, you know what? I can say one thing, and this is going to be one of the most boldest things I've ever said. But he's on my screen right now, and it just made me think about it. Okay.
Okay.
Seth Rollins' gimmick right now, the whole thing that he's doing now, his shtick that he's doing now, is better than any gimmick that Shawn Michaels has ever
had. Why? Why would you say that?
His character is the way he connects to the fans and everything. It's way better than any gimmick that Shawn ever had. It's not even close.
Okay, I hear you say that, but why? Like, what is your reasoning? Like, what is
my reasoning for saying it?
Yes.
Because the fact that we have Shawn on that list, where his gimmicks, in my opinion, were never on the level of... I think that his wrestling ability was so great that it was able to overcome so many of the faults that he had compared to everyone else. Where everyone else was more balanced all across the board, Shawn just was so great at one thing. Not saying he was bad at the other things, but he was just so great at one thing that we overlook it. Where Seth, yes, he had that little dry spell, but he's been great at everything on that list that you would want. Gimmick-wise, great. You're talking about the gimmick now. You can even talk about the beginning stages of Kingslayer when he was feuding with Triple H. I mean, one of the great moments of history was when he interrupted TakeOver. Okay.
I was there that night, by the way.
Oh, there you go. That's even more disrespectful. Then we're going back to the whole Brock Lesnar Beast Slayer thing or whatever the whole thing. He was still Kingslayer.
Okay, but
the Shield days, the same thing pretty much Roman had. Pretty much. The only thing he's missing that Roman has that he doesn't is two things. One, he had Vince's back. He didn't have Vince's backing as the face of the company. He was always number two. And he didn't have the longest reigning run of the generation. But he's had everything else.
Okay, so a couple things.
And that's me as the biggest Roman fan you know.
You are the biggest Roman fan that I know. A couple things about that. I don't agree with you in the HBK thing. I don't agree at all. The other thing, it's like two of your examples, the Beast Slayer and the Kingslayer. It's like, so
Mostly
you're telling me...
Slayer, by the way. Mostly.
Huh?
Mostly the Kingslayer, not really the Beast, but mostly the Kingslayer. But
okay, so even that, I would not agree that's when the tables turn, because that's still...
That's not when the tables turn. I'm not saying that's when it turned. The tables turned when the pandemic hit.
Right.
But that's the same thing. You could say that was the same thing for Roman. That was the same thing for people like Bailey. That was the same people for a lot of people.
Right, but that's what I said. It's like, I said that. I was like, well, I understand that you could say that for Roman, but then my counter was he's still been doing that. Like, whether you like it or not, he was still already in the main event. So it wasn't like you had to buy too much into him being in the main event. Like, whether you like it or not, he was still closing those shows. He was still having those big feuds. So it really wasn't that big of a jump. It was like he just had to nail down and get to that next level, which he was able to do. I love Seth Rollins' ridiculous outfits. Anyway, I love Seth Rollins' ridiculous outfits. I'm a big fan. We talked ad nauseum how my favorite moment of 2022 was him trolling Roman Reigns. That was my favorite moment. So I am not a Seth Rollins hater.
Wait, did that main event? Okay, yeah.
I am not.
I'm saying, did that main event that show? I can't remember.
It was the Rumble.
I know. So it did a main event. Okay. I was just wondering.
If you want to go there, I mean,
I was just
Roman Reigns has made. If you want to go there, Roman Reigns has been the last match. He just happened to not be the last match when he had with Seth. I'm just saying, if you really want to try me on that,
Nah,
But
you want to get serious. Roman hasn't beaten Seth, so you got me talking bad about my tribal chief.
look,
Got me going
Seth
against my tribal.
Rollins will put a pin in this. Seth Rollins will absolutely be on the GOAT list.
Okay.
But
Oh.
where he falls on the list and how quick you were able to rattle his name off, I think he's coming up on a crucial moment. It started off in the pandemic, and where he is now, I think where he goes next, we'll put a pin in it for good. I think that will further cement his GOAT status. I think he already has like 75% there. But what happens after this, I think is really going to be like, boom, all right. When you start rattling off this generation, if you might start with Roman, just like with Rock and Austin, it can be interchangeable, But what he does next, I think that cements whether it's going to be, oh, who's the GOAT of this generation? Oh, Roman and Seth. Or it's going to be Roman, then Seth. I think it just depends. I think he needs that extra gear. This is good, but where do you go next? After a while, it's going to be like, you know how wrestling fans get. You can dress in the crazy outfits and you can do all that and they can sing your song. But where are you going to go next? So that's all I'm saying. He's going to be on the list, but I think he's coming up on a crucial time here. So, not a Seth Rollins hater. Just saying.
We'll leave it there. Because that's it. I'm not gonna continue that.
Now you know like all those shows I had with you in the past.
We're just gonna leave it off there. I think that I'll say this last thing about just the whole GOAT conversation, which has been a great conversation, and this is the first time we've argued in a little while. So that was actually really great. I would just say that we've had a lot of great wrestlers in our time.
Mm-hmm.
It's believe it or not, we didn't name them all. I'm sure there's more that we didn't even name. But it's just really great to know that there are so many people that can be on this list, and it's hard to. It also shows how hard it is to narrow it down to just a single GOAT.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure we could continue that conversation for hours, and then that's only for 10th place, maybe, to see if he's on the list of the other 10 people that we named. That's just for that. Imagine narrowing down to the top 5 and then top 3 and then eventually our 1. It's hard. I would just say that the GOAT is going to always be preference. I mentioned that before, but I just feel that I love the fact that there's probably not going to ever be a list that's the same.
Yeah. Yep.
I really do love that. That just shows how diverse, wrestling fans are, and just their way of thinking and what they enjoy. And I think that's a great thing about wrestling. There's just so many things to consider, not only just for GOAT, but just for anything in general. So, definitely a way to end that conversation and a good way to end the episode. I do want to mention one last thing, Sasha. So I had a friend of mine tune into the show, and he listened to our show, and he said he enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. He's a big wrestling fan, and he also was wondering if we should get some guests on the show, and he even wants to be on the show. And I thought it was a great idea. That's something that we need to consider, is getting some people on the show, get some guests. What do you think about that?
I agree. It's been a while. It's been a while.
Yeah, I think we had it was Coop.
Yep.
That was the last time. That was during our old show. But yeah, we got to get some guests. I think that's something we got to work on. And even if we start, just with friends, and then work our way up to some, bigger names and stuff like that, I think that will do well, and that will help train us and get better.
I agree.
So I think that's something we're gonna do. We're gonna bring back the guest hosts. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna bring the guest hosts of Ring Champs.
Okay.
But no, he did want to say he really did enjoy the episode. You listened to the last one, and I believe he started listening to other ones, but he definitely did enjoy just the way we interacted and just the conversations. Hopefully, he continues listening. Definitely seems like he is, and I hope everyone else is listening and enjoying what the conversations that we're having. We're definitely going to be diving deep into a lot more conversations similar to the this. We're not going to just do reviews. We're going to bring some more what ifs to the to our episodes and similar things like that. And one last thing too, we just want to also mention that we focused on the males with the GOAT status. Don't forget, we didn't forget the ladies, but we wanted to save that for maybe another episode down the line, because they deserve their own episode when it comes to GOAT status. Trust me, Sasha knows there's only one GOAT in the women's in my heart. There's only one.
We're gonna switch roles again. Okay.
We're definitely that's the one conversation that there's only one name. But
who's the she GOAT? Gotcha.
But that's a topic for another day. So I just didn't want anyone to think, oh, we forgot the ladies. No, we didn't. We kind of narrowed it down for this episode. We knew it would be long. I just didn't think I would have a long argument with Sasha about that topic.
But that's what makes us great. So that's what makes this cool. This is just like two friends arguing about wrestling. So that's what we like to do.
Exactly. So, you guys know where you guys can listen to us. We're on all not social media. We're on all podcast playing sites, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube, guys, so make sure you check us out on YouTube. Subscribe, follow, leave comments, 5-star ratings, wherever it is that they do on the sites. Just please check us out. Give us a shout out. We just can't wait to continue doing more. This was episode 15, Sasha. I didn't even realize the number, but 15 episodes. Not bad.
Nope. Glad we're back together.
Exactly. So before we head out, you got any last words for the people?
No, just like and share. I feel good about this episode, so I can share this. I like our little argument, and just one more thing I do want to mention real quick.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Shout out to, first of all, let's shout out the reason why I'm making this shout out. Congratulations to Corey Graves and Carmella. Their son Dimitri was born.
That's right. Congrats.
And that's wonderful because Carmella had a well-documented miscarriage. I can relate to that. So, God bless them on the little miracle and 60 hours of labor. God bless you, girl.
Oh God, damn.
Yeah. Yes. But I say that to say, with the wonderful birth of beautiful Dimitri, also gave us another blessing this week, and that was Kevin Owens on commentary. I don't know what Kevin Owens is planning to do after he stops wrestling, but I hope that he blesses us with commentary. From the tie, from even the clip of him asking to be on commentary, from him. Obviously, we knew Homeboy was getting suspended. Like, as soon as they said it, I even tweeted. I was like, he's as good as suspended. Then 2 hours later, I got to retweet it and say, this aged well.
Free KO.
But the best part of the segment was I liked that he was doing he was I don't know what it's called, but he was like in football when you're drawing on the thing, it's the screen comes up, and he kept KO is a national treasure, and I love him. So I wanted to end the show by saying thank you, KO. Never, ever, ever change.
Never change. All right, guys. Well, like I said, this is episode 15 of Ring Champs. I'm your boy Just Fino. She's Sasha the Legit King. And yeah, we out of here. So peace.
Adios.